Hey everybody, it's Rykard here again, back with another black and white Pokemon analysis. Today, we're going to be discussing the menacing Pokemon known as Waruvial. So let's get started by taking a look at its typing, abilities, and stats. So first off, this Pokemon is a ground dark type, which is really interesting typing, since it means you're completely immune to electric and psychic attacks. On the other hand, though, the secondary typing doesn't cover any of the weaknesses of the first type. Therefore, you're going to still be weak to ice, water, and grass for the ground type, and bug and fighting for the dark type. As for the abilities, the first one you get is Intimidate, which is an always useful ability that lowers your opponent's attack stat by one stage whenever you switch this Pokemon in. And this ability can be used for more bulkier sets, or if you want to make Waruvial able to at least survive one attack from some Pokemon that is physically based. As for the next ability, it is known as Overconfidence, which is a really awesome new ability that increases your attack by one stage every time you KO a Pokemon. And this is great because it pretty much makes this Pokemon able to increase its own stats just by being switched into battle and used to take out whatever your opponent has on the field. And lastly, its last ability, which is Anger Point, its Dream World ability. It's a pretty cool ability, but has never really been able to be used effectively because of the weird requirements for it to activate. But basically, if your opponent lands a critical hit on you, your attack is now +6, meaning a belly drum or something like that. But there are two moves in this generation that will always land a critical hit. Unfortunately, though, this Pokemon is weak to both of them, and they'll be doing super effective damage to him. So in teams or something like that, if you want to try and run Anger Point with one of those moves, probably this would not be the Pokemon to use with it. As for its stats, though, it has really good HP with 95, with some pretty okay defenses, with 75 physical defense and 75 special defense. So this Pokemon is pretty capable of surviving a hit or two, and its high HP will buffer the somewhat average defensive stats that it has. As for the physical attacking side, it is at a really good 117, meaning that this Pokemon can deal out loads of physical damage. But unfortunately, its special attack is only 65, so it won't be doing nearly as much damage as your physical attack will do, so you're probably just going to be better off running physical sets on this Pokemon. Lastly, its speed is at a pretty good 92, which means that it will be outspeeding a lot of different things, but it still won't be one of the fastest Pokemon that you're going to have on the field. So just be mindful of that. But its speed and its attack are really good, to a point where you could probably run a really effective Scarf set on this Pokemon, just because of how powerful it is and the fact that it's naturally pretty fast. But in this video you will not see one of those because they're just really easy to make anyways, so you can pretty much make one up on your own. But with that, let's get to the first set that I have for you today. So in this first set, we're going to be turning Waruvial into a really powerful physical attacker. So first we're going to give it a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but decrease its special attack, and then we're going to be using the ability Overconfidence so that we have a way of increasing our physical attack every time we KO a Pokemon, which will hopefully be a lot. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into HP, 252 into physical attack, and 252 into speed to give you your max speed possible and the highest attack you can get with a Jolly Nature. As for the item, we're going to be using a Slackberry, but not in the sense that we are going to be using it in combination with Substitute. And the reason for that is because even if you were to try to sub down to a Slackberry, chances are your opponent will have some kind of priority user with Mach Punch on your team and make your Slackberry completely useless. Basically, though, we're just going to be using its pretty good HP slash alright defenses as a way to give you some kind of buffer zone to allow the Slackberry to activate. And what I mean by that is, chances are, or hopefully, you won't be at least being 2-hit KO'd by a lot of your opponents, allowing your Slackberry to activate when you're hit below 25% of your health. And it's really great if it can, because it'll turn this Pokemon into an incredibly fast attacker, and then with the Overconfidence boost that you're hopefully getting, it will allow you to do some serious damage to your opponent. But for the moveset, we're first going to start off with its main stab moves, which will be Earthquake as its ground stab and Crunch as its dark stab. Then, along with that, we're going to be using Thunderfang because of the fact that this Pokemon is weak to water types, and there are a lot of bulky water types out there in the metagame, even though there isn't one yet, but you know what I mean. But Thunderfang would be a great way to predict some kind of switch into a water type to take out this Pokemon, and then obviously deal a lot of damage to it because they'll be weak to it. As for its last move, it is a new fighting type move of 60 base power known as Ankle Sweep. And why this is such a great move is because essentially it is the icy wind for physical attackers, if you want to think of it like that. But basically it lowers your opponent's speed stat one stage every time you use it. And since this Pokemon has pretty good speed, and since we're maxing it out with the Giant Nature and the Speed EVs, after one Ankle Sweep, you should be able to outspeed essentially like everything. And the reasoning for that is obviously if you don't have the ability to activate your Select Berry yet, because that is kind of based on chance at this point, Ankle Sweep is a great way to get an advantage on your opponent if you predict some kind of switch into a Pokemon that's faster than you. Because then obviously Ankle Sweep will lower their speed by one stage, and then you'll be faster than them on the consequent turn, meaning that you could do a lot of damage with 3 of your other moves. And that's pretty much the idea behind that. As for this set, we're going to be turning Waruvial into a powerful physical wall. So first, we're going to be giving it an Impish Nature to increase its physical defense, but decrease its special attack. And then we're going to be using the ability Intimidate this time to lower your opponent's physical attack every time you switch this Pokemon in. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into HP to give you your max HP, 4 into attack to give you 1 more attack point, and then 252 EVs into physical defense to give you your max physical defense possible, along with the Impish Nature and the ability Intimidate working for you as well. As for the item, we're going to be using Leftovers to increase our HP a little bit at the end of every turn. For this moveset, we're first going to be utilizing Bulk Up as a way to not only increase your attack, because we're not really putting any attack EVs into this set, and a way to increase your physical defense even further. So that'll make this Pokemon very difficult to take down on the physical side because of the boosts you'll be getting from that and its natural, and the EVs that you're putting into the defenses. As for the first attacking move, we're going to be using Payback, and the reason for this is because we're not going to be putting any speed EVs into this Pokemon, so therefore Payback has a very high chance at reaching its 100 base power if your opponent is going first. And obviously with a Bulk Up, it'll be doing even more damage since it's a physical dark type attack that'll get Stab. As for its next move, we're going to be using Earthquake again because obviously it's the most prominent move that this Pokemon will probably be using since it's a really powerful ground type move that it gets stabbed from. As for its last move, we're either going to be using Substitute or Counter. The reason for Substitute would be to prevent any status effects happening onto Waruvial, such as Poison or Burn, which could seriously cripple this Pokemon. And also, it's a way as giving you kind of like a buffer turn to an extent. I don't know what I meant by that, but like a free turn, because if you're using Bulk Up, you're going to be increasing your physical defense even more, and if you're up against a physical attacker, for example, you can easily survive a physical attack that probably won't break your sub at that point. So that'll give you another turn to bulk up or use an attack to get an advantage on your opponent. So Substitute has really good uses with this set. The other option would be to use Counter, because this Pokemon is able to learn it, and because you're incredibly defensively bulky, Counter will be actually an effective way of attacking your opponent if they're using physical attacks against you. And it's great too if your opponent plans on using a super effective physical attack that won't take you out, since you're going to have like an Intimidate and bulk ups against it. So the physical attack that's super effective will be doing a ton of damage to you, but it probably won't kill at that point. So using Counter will be a sure way of taking your opponent out, which is a really cool thing to do and try to do with this Pokemon. But that's pretty much it for all these sets. I know there's only two. I couldn't honestly think of a third one, and I'm sorry that I haven't uploaded in the past couple days, but I've been pretty busy with school, so you know how that is. But that's about it for Waruvial, and I think I might be making a video for a couple of items that are introduced in this generation in a video you might see in the future. So be looking for that, and I guess I will see you guys in my next video. So take care and goodbye.